Shabbat Shalom. It's great to be with all of you this Shabbat, this very important Shabbat. This morning, one of the teachers in New York asked me really probably the most obvious question in this week's portion. Most of us know the story, but we'll review it quickly for those of us who want to go deeper. In last week's portion, after 210 years of the Israelites being in pain, in bondage, in suffering, Moses was chosen, is going to be the great leader who will elevate the Israelites out of the darkness. And the first time Moses is sent to Pharaoh, what happens? Now, one would imagine, right, if the Creator came to you and said, okay, I have a job for you. There's a person who's in pain. There's a whole people who are in pain. And I, God, am sending you to elevate them. One would expect that after following the directive of the Creator, after being chosen to be the leader, or at least the conduit for redemption, that things would start getting better. If not completely better, but at least things should start getting better. After God reveals through his prophet, through Moses, that he is going to be sent to elevate the Israelites out of their bondage. But at the end of last week's portion, there's a famous statement from Moses to the Creator. "Ume'az bati el paro ledaber bishmecha." Moses says to the Creator, really the sense from the people, that since I began my journey, my spiritual journey with God, with the spiritual work, not only have things not gotten better, but they have gotten worse. That now that I've started the journey, one of two things should have happened, or three things. One, the miracle should have happened, and after I began my journey by God, right, by the light of the Creator to Pharaoh, that things should start, either the redemption happens right away, or at least things to start get better. But why would one think or accept? Since I, Moses, have began speaking to Pharaoh, your words, things have only gotten worse. And in direct correlation, this week's portion begins. The Creator tells Moses, you need to know something about everything that came before you. We know that there's really the spiritual path of what's called the patriarchs, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, who created the spiritual path of the world. And there was this new path that was beginning with Moses. And the Creator says something very striking about the way the patriarchs interacted with the light of the Creator, which is very different and it needs to be understood than the way most of us would even hope to interact with the light of the Creator. To them, the Creator says, my relationship with Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, Bekel Shakai, the name that was revealed to them, which means the consciousness within which their work was a limited consciousness, a limited revelation of the light of the Creator. The name Kel Shakai, which is the name that the Creator is saying, this is the level upon which the work of the patriarchs was based, the name Shakai, Shin Daled Yud, is the name that represents when things are limited. When consciousness is limited, when strength is limited, when an understanding is limited. Ushmi Hashem, he says, the tetragrammaton Yud-Ke Vav-Ke, which represents when things are clear, when the light of the Creator is strongly revealed to the individual, they did not work within the confines of that name. So the question that most of us would have, especially those of us who are relatively new in the path of Kabbalah, don't you expect that the whole purpose of the spiritual work, the whole purpose of the connection to the Creator is to have clarity? So that when I go through life and I go even through challenges or I go through dark times, I can call upon that clarity that I have. Here the Creator is telling Moses and telling us that not only did the greatest souls that ever lived, the greatest souls that were ever involved in revealing the light of the Creator in this world, not only did they not live a life of clarity, but they didn't desire a life of clarity. They wanted to maintain a distance from clarity. They wanted to maintain what's called the connection to the realm called Kel Shakai, where things often don't make sense, when the understanding of why things are happening is very limited. Not only was this the way they lived their lives, this was their desire to continue their work on the level that's called Kel Shakai, which again represents lack of clarity. How many times have I had this conversation? I'm sure you've had this thought. I'm doing the spiritual work, I'm studying, I'm transforming, things seem to get a little bit more challenging or not as clear as they should be. Why is it that we find ourselves in confusion when we're in the midst of the spiritual work? I understand people who aren't connected, people who aren't doing spiritual work, people who aren't sharing, they're in a state of confusion. But why for me? Why for somebody who's connected? And more than that, maybe this might be scary for some of us, the Kabbalists are telling us that not only is it the way of the patriarchs, it's actually what you should desire. Why is it so important to desire lack of clarity? Why is it so important to desire to do the work that becomes more challenging and not easier? So I want to speak about, and again, there's really only one idea, but we'll talk about different aspects of it. Many of us know that, for example, Sarah, the matriarch, the wife of Abraham, she had very difficult time becoming pregnant. It was physically impossible. The Midrash tells us something which is funny, but strange. Before Sarah, there was never anybody in the history of the world that ever had trouble getting pregnant. Everybody got pregnant. Everybody. It wasn't 1 in a million that had a problem, not 1 in 1,000, not 1 in 500. Zero. The percentage of people who had trouble getting pregnant was zero. So Sarah and Abraham are the paragons of spiritual connection. They are the ones who are bringing down into our world the Word of God, the Creator's path, the light of the Creator for humanity, right? They're not just doing it even for their family or even for a large group, for the Israelites even. They were doing it for the world. And Sarah was the first person that we know, of course, their son, Isaac, was going to be the next conduit to bring the world, the continuation. If not for Isaac, there will be no continuation of the spiritual path. So not only is Isaac not born, Sarah does not become easily pregnant, or even pregnant with difficulty, but rather it was impossible for her to get pregnant compared to every other woman who ever lived before her that had no problem getting pregnant. Why? And it seems like as Abraham and Sarah were going through life and many years not being able to get pregnant, they did not want. They wanted to maintain that confusion, that big question. Why is it that all the other people in the world who are not connected to the Creator at all are easily getting pregnant, having their children, having their families, and we, Abraham and Sarah, who are the conduit for the whole world, we can't even get pregnant? The answer is a very simple, powerful, but B'ezrat Hashem, as we learn this, we transform the way we want to do our spiritual work. Abraham and Sarah could have had children. They could have had many children. But to have a child whose light will shine for the world forever, that can only be accomplished with difficulty. That can only be accomplished in the most dark, the most confusing, the most ununderstandable situation. To be able to maintain, which Abraham and Sarah were able, throughout all those years of barrenness, unable to get pregnant, but still maintain certainty and still maintain desire and still maintain the spiritual work and not wanting to gain clarity. The Creator could have come to Abraham and said, listen, you want me to tell you the secret? It's going to happen. It's going to happen when you're 100 years. It's going to happen. Abraham did not want to know. He knew that the work that he was doing to bring a soul to the world that was going to shine forever, for that it has to be difficult. We find this, and again, of course, with Isaac and his son Jacob, we find this with the great prophet Samuel. Many of you might know the story. It's a beautiful story, but that his mother, again, was very difficult for her to get pregnant. Why? Now we understand. To have children, anybody can have children. It happens all the time. To have a child whose light will remain for eternity, a light for the world, that's only when it was done through a difficult process. Samuel was born as a prophet, not only for his generation, but for the rest of the world, for the rest of human history. The book of Samuel and the light revealed with it will remain with us. Why? Not because his mother had a child, but because his mother had a very difficult time having a child. And this is the answer to our question. Why did Abraham and Isaac and Jacob desire to remain within the realm of Kel Shakai, which means within the realm of confusion, within the realm of lack of clarity? Because they knew the work that we want to do is not just work to bring light, to reveal light, to be good, to be connected. They wanted to reveal light that was going to transform our world and remain forever. Light to transform our world and to remain forever can only be accomplished through challenge. And the greater the challenge, the greater the difficulty, the more possibility that that light that you revealed, that they revealed, was going to remain forever. And this is the secret of the Shabbat. If I asked many of you before the Shabbat, how do you want your spiritual work to be? I accept you might have said that sometimes there will be challenges and sometimes it will be difficult. But how do I want it? How would I prefer it? I prefer clarity. Yes, in moments of confusion, moments of doubt, but I want clarity. And how do you want your work to be? I'd like to be with strength, with desire, with awakening all the time. Yes, of course, there'll be moments that I don't feel as excited. There are moments that I won't feel as inspired. But I want clarity, I want certainty, and I want connected and inspired work. Hopefully, if we are beginning to understand the light of the Shabbat, again, we might not have to ask, because there are those moments, but to embrace the moments of confusion, to embrace the moments of lack of clarity, because it is only the light that is revealed from the times of confusion that will remain forever.